Okay, so thanks for coming to my presentation, the LightNest Starter Kit, Managing a Custom Drupal Distribution for a Global Organization. This is going to be a lightning talk, and I'm going to go lightning fast because I have a lot I want to cover. And it's not really a demo of LightNest; it's really about managing it. So, what I would like to cover in this presentation is why we saw a need to create this distribution, the benefits of doing it, the importance of strong governance and community engagement, and challenges we've had along the way. And just a little bit, my name is Antonella Severo. I'm with the Nestle Global Services Spain. I've been there about 4 or 5 years. It was set up to kind of consolidate IT solutions globally in our organization. And I started off as a project manager. Then I was the product owner of our lightness distribution. And most recently, I'm overseeing the team, the Web CMS team, which is comprised of architects, tech specialists, project managers, business analysts. And and everybody has a part in contributing to our lightness distribution. So a little bit about how our journey began. So in 2016, Nestle, we had about 2,100 brand websites, consumer-facing sites, and it was a decentralized process. There was over 100 plus CMSs. It was built on HTML, PHP, whatever. So, why is this a problem? There's definitely a lack of reuse. Um, we're building the same modules and features over and over and over again, and it also requires different hostings. There's different agencies that have to be onboarded, different types of trainings for each type of CMS. And of course, it wasn't easy to have visibility on the security fixes and requirements that were required. So what we needed at that point was a unified compliant web CMS solution. So as you can imagine, the one that was selected was Drupal. That's why we're here. And as you all know, the reason we chose Drupal was it's one of the best enterprise content management systems. For us, it was highly scalable. It gave us the option to do multi-site. And of course, it had a very strong and large developer community. So we're not stuck with proprietary software that we couldn't get anybody to develop for. So we started off on Drupal 7 with the system of master sites, multi-sites, and it was going along great. But then we started to run into, the benefit of Drupal is there's like more than 30, 40,000 contributed modules you can start off with. But then the problem is we started to see a decentralization again, that yes, everybody was building on our standard CMS, but again, they're rebuilding the same features and modules. So that's why we saw a need to build our Drupal distribution so that we can actually select and pre-package the modules and just build them once. So the idea is that we would build on Drupal core, which was 7 at the time. No, I'm sorry. At this point, we were building on 8, and because Drupal 8 came out, so it made sense to build on 8. And it was built on Lightning, and this came from the Drupal community. And then LightNest was built by the Web CMS team. And on top of that, the markets could do their customizations. So our goal was that markets could focus their marketing budget on features that are relevant to their consumers and that could be more engaging rather than having to build the infrastructure and the same old features time and time again. So just to give you a snapshot of the timeline, we started LightNest in 2017, and we're still developing it and evolving it up to today. So 1.0 was a pretty small and quick release built on Drupal 8, on Lightning. We actually pre-selected some contrib modules. We decided to go with paragraphs because at the time I think layouts was still new. So, and paragraphs seemed to offer what we needed at the point. And we set up our Jira projects with our backlog. And this went along the lines of everything that we were trying to do at Nestle IT in terms of simplifying, standardizing, and sharing our solutions. So then we quickly moved on to our Lightness 2.0 release, where we added some content types. We added a security kit, which had a lot of pre-configured settings for what our security teams were saying were our requirements. We started to add integrations to connectors like Google Tag Manager and cookie consent, which are mandatory. And we had one front end component. So, this also, with the integrations, it took away the need for agencies have to drop in codes in the header in the actual code. You could do it through the interface. And then we were like, this was kind of taking time. It was on top of the work the web CMS team was already doing. So we're like, all right, we have to get serious here and really evolve this. So we opened up in our internal Git repository, run on Composer. We actually contracted an external development team to do ongoing maintenance and evolutions. And we consolidated some roles or formalized roles in our web CMS team, such as product owner and tech and integration lead. And also, we started with 4-week sprints. We have daily Scrum calls, and we had releases every 2 months. And 3.0, we actually advanced a lot. We have 15 front end components. We have a whole slew of integrations with other solutions at Nestle, such as digital asset management, recipe and product hubs, CRMs, etc. We also began to add data layers so that there could be global, dashboards on a global level to see the analytics with pre-configured values. We added UCG tools, UX tools. We also added SEO optimizations in terms of taking the meta tag contrib module and pre-configuring the values, and we added the structure schemas. We looked at doing a lot of editorial enhancements, adding great plugins such as autosave, workflow, etc. And we also did some work on accessibility, and as much as we could on the back end, such as tabbing order and things like that. So, of course, there's challenges. So, one of the first challenges we had is that some of the master sites were already on Drupal 8, so they couldn't use LightNest as their base, but they could still use independent modules. So they're still aligned with us as wherever possible. And also, some sites started off with Linus, but then kind of branched. They started as a one-time implementation, and they branched off. So we kind of have to work with them to get that realigned and understand our release cycle so that they keep up with it. So we obviously saw that it wasn't enough to just throw out the distribution out there and it just sits out there for everybody to pick up and that's it. We obviously needed more. So we in terms of training, we enhanced our agency onboarding. We created a knowledge base uh, to show, a knowledge base and demo site to show the features. We also created configuration and authoring guides, especially since our integrations are custom. Agencies needed to learn more about it, so we presented that. In terms of communications, we presented to business stakeholders so that they would understand what we were doing. We published release notes for business owners and agencies. And we, of course, announced our releases on our company channels. On a technical level, we pre-installed LightNest on our compliant hosting platforms. And we also started to think about how DevOps could play a role in this kind of ecosystem. So now let's go back and take a look at the timeline. So around 2018, 2019, what happened? Yes, Drupal 9 came into play. So how did we handle that? Because we knew that with 1,000 sites at this point on Drupal, it's going to take a while for all these sites to kind of update to Drupal 9, even though it's a much easier upgrade than going from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. So what we did is we kind of branched off into two streams. So we had the Drupal 3.x stream, which is based on Drupal 8.9 and above, and then our Drupal 4.0 stream, which is Drupal 9. And so we released our Lightness 4.0, which is based on Drupal 9, and we actually removed Lightning and any modules that are feature we needed, we would just add independently. We created a sample component content generation, which basically creates a file, one page with all our components. Which is done through YAML files. And this is a way for agencies to pick it up and test it more easily, or designers can use it and play around with it. We're also up to 21 components. We're really advancing our integrations and also in editorial enhancements. So of course we're going to have more challenges and misalignments, more people are involved in this endeavor. So we're getting constant urgent requests from integrations. So one of the ways we solve that is we moved to Kanban because we were spending a lot of time with the agency reviewing and our sprint list, taking out things, substituting it. So instead of wasting all the time, we decided to go to Kanban and just change the priorities. We also worked with the solutions and markets to align with them and have them understand our release cycles. Also, if there is like an urgent need, since the modules are independent, we can always create a tag just for that particular feature so that they could pick it up for their own deployments. There's always competing priorities or roadmaps and large scale deployments. So everybody wants something now. So of course, sometimes if there was a feature that required a lot more work than we could handle in our own uh, development lifecycle, what we would do is we would ask them to obtain budget to fund mini projects. So we might hire an external agency to really accelerate the delivery of that particular feature. And there's continues to be a branching off of components sometimes. So maybe an agency will take our feature and then enhance it on their own, but then branch it off in a way that they won't benefit from the work that we're doing on it. And this could be problematic because now that everything's more united, we're having top down requests from business, the global business, to roll out features such as ratings and reviews and UCG tools that they see bring value to the site. And so if we're developing something aligning with the company strategy, these other markets are going to miss out. So we would have to, like, when we discover these, we have to ask them to refactor them to a Reline. And also, if they're building enhancements, they should actually talk to us and give it back to Lightness so everybody could benefit because we're one IT team, we're one team. So, this brings us to the need for kind of like the creation of this Lightness ecosystem. So we're kind of naming it our Lightness open source. So we have developers across all these markets finding bugs and creating patches of them. So instead of every single agency creating a patch or fixing the bug, why not get it back into Lightness? Or you might have a feature that you've created that might be valuable to others. So we open up the Lightness repository so they could do pull requests. Our tech lead will evaluate it, make sure all the information's there. Otherwise, it goes back to the agency. Then when it's validated, it goes to the product owner for prioritization in the backlog. The Linus developers then take it and should own it, and they should validate it on a code level. And then it goes into our next release. Of course, if there's something more urgent, we could fast track it. And we've also been working on we created an installation wizard. So if agencies want to kind of develop it on their local environment or whatever, so the wizard will actually kind of accelerate the integration information and also make agencies aware of all the integrations we have. We've worked on automated test scripts so that we could accelerate regression testing, more automated, and also reduce the amount of bugs that are cascading to all, you know, thousands of websites. We've also rolled out our DevOps and CI/CD pipelines, and we're working on onboarding those. And we created a new demo site because the demo site we had was attached to our knowledge base. So the knowledge base had new features specific to it. So it was getting difficult to test it on its own as what is on LightNest and also, to visualize it at LightNest. So we also created its own theme. I mean, LightNest in and of itself is just backend, but we created a theme to visualize the demo site. This theme is also being used in our site builder tool, which there was just a session previous to mine. So you should definitely go back and look at that replay. So that kind of automates or accelerates site building. And so that's what we're adding to our kind of DevOps and testing framework. And then we've discovered that knowledge sharing is really important. So we continue to have agency onboardings. We've started weekly open tech sessions where agencies and markets could come and ask questions. We've consolidated our knowledge base in our vitrine site because before it was on SharePoint, it's on Confluence, etc. And we also created knowledge tickets. So agencies, if they can't go to a session, they can open tickets. And so, in terms of managing the roadmap, maybe you ask, where do we get our ideas? So we have weekly internal discovery meetings with the Web CMS team. The Lightness development team contributes. Also, our tech specialists meet with our multi-site masters, and so there's information generated there of what they're doing. Our integrations are constant, and Site Builder tool are constantly requesting more enhancements. Again, if there's a business strategy from company, and the markets, project managers, we get ideas and requests from them. And sometimes agencies will come to us and say, hey, we have this module, are you interested in it? Should we rework it for LightNest? And of course, through conferences and industry trends. And it's important to also measure success. So qualitatively, we look at adoption. So what are the number of sites that have moved to Drupal and LightNest? How many components and integrations are they actually using? And also, what's our net promoter score? And we also look for quantitative feedback, from our stakeholders, markets, agencies, project managers, colleagues on our integration teams, and even third-party vendors. And you know, we do it through surveys, through meetings, direct contact via email, and we take into account all the feedback and pain points that we're hearing, and we try to improve it. So in terms of what's next, one of the things we're going to be doing is kind of like this Lightness Academy for the different roles, but first with the agency. And what we want to do is like kind of take what we're already doing with them, but certify it in a way. So because what's happening is we might have mature agencies working with us that they've been around a while and they know how we work, but they're adding new people to their teams, or they might form a new team in a different region. And so it's important that we know that everybody who's participating in this understands our way of working. So we're going to kind of give some sort of training with some certification at the end of it. Also, we always have a question of layout builder, drag and drop. How can we improve that? How can we integrate that? We don't have the answer yet. We're looking at building campaign templates in there, maybe through content types, because we want to focus on first party data collection. So help accelerate that goal. Um, we'll keep working with the site builder tool. And then we want to close the adoption gap. We're almost there, where most of our sites are on LightNest. So we're going to continue doing that. And so what makes a successful distribution, just as a summary, communication is very important, making sure everybody understands every step of the way what you're doing. Uh, Building this community so that there's interaction, there's exchange, and that will ensure reusability. Governance is important, so making sure you have your guidelines out and you set up the right meetings to ensure that happens. Knowledge sharing, training. Also, making sure that we have a solid technical team and works well with our business. With our own team, that we're part of it. We're all part of the same effort on this, and everybody should have a willingness to adapt. Like I said before, understand the pain points and keep improving. So that's in a nutshell what we're doing, and I hope we have time for a couple of questions. So thank you. Okay, so let me take a look at this questions here. Any plans to integrate a configuration page for CK Editor? Configuration page for CK instead of using another contrib module. I think this question is a bit too technical for me, but I think Uriel is on the chat, so maybe Uriel could answer that. And are you willing to share the sample content generator? Yeah, I'm happy to have you take a look at it and see what we can do. Just contact me. And I think that's about it for questions. I don't know if Uriel can answer, or else Alexandra, we can definitely chat about it later with the appropriate people. Any other questions?
I see some different questions in the Q&A tab.
Ah,
Uh, okay, so one is you mentioned LightNest 1.0 used paragraphs. Did you ever move to layout builder?
No, we haven't. We haven't. We started off with paragraphs, but we're looking at ways that maybe like both of them can. I think we're discovering from the conferences and everything that maybe both could coexist in the same in the same kit.
Okay, and then Finn is asking, is lightness publicly available?
No, it's not publicly available. We go back and forth on this because there's so many modules that are very specific to what we're doing. But we will keep exploring this.
There is one last one from Aaron. Is the installation wizard a separate thing from Drupal installer, or is it just the Drupal installer but modified in the way that distributions can do?
Um, I think it's not a different style. I think it's built on top of it, and we add different profiles to it. So, for example, if you want to install our rainbow theme, you could add that profile instead, or you could just add the basic LightNest profile.
Great, that's all the
Okay.
questions.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining me. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to contact me on any one of my social channels.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the session.